Hey there, this is the Small Fish, Big Podcast, a show for the gallus few who dream and do. If you're a small biz owner, a creative freelancer, or someone dreaming about leaving your 9-to-5, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll chat with an inspiring guest who will share their entrepreneurship story before we delve into a discussion about running a creative business. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to part 2 of Pandemic Perspectives. I'm assuming most people who are listening today have already tuned into part 1, which went live yesterday. But just in case you didn't, this is part 2 of a 2-part mega episode, which features in total 26 small business owners from all across Scotland and even a couple further abroad. We have one person today joining us from England. And we have another photographer actually joining us from all the way over in Canada, which is my home country. So you've got lots of Scottish insights and a little bit of perspective coming from further abroad as well. This project was really a labor of love. When I set out to create this episode, I was hoping to get maybe 10 or 12 other small business owners involved. And when I put the call out and had close to 30 of you get in touch to say you would be interested in sharing your voice, I was very pleasantly surprised. It has been a great experience over the last 6 or 7 weeks. I started interviewing people before Christmas and then took a little break and then got started again in January. It's been really nice to hear everybody's lessons learned, the silver linings that came up during the pandemic, and also just hearing everybody's optimistic and excited perspective on 2021 as well. So another thank you to everybody who has taken part in this, and thank you to you for listening in. This podcast is something that was a long time coming, something I wanted to do for a long time, and one of the main ethoses of my business and my personal life as well is connecting the small business community. It's really, really important to me, and I hope that this podcast is able to do that. So without further ado, here is part 2 of Pandemic Perspectives. Welcome back! I'm your host, Rhiannon Loudon, and today my first guest is Alice Mitchell. Alice is a designer and maker and the brains behind Papeterie Bespoke. Hey Alice, how are you doing over there?
Hi Rhiannon, nice to speak to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bit of a weird start to the new year, but I think
It's a weird start.
Definitely, but after all the things that we learned in 2020 and all the stuff that we kind of got through, I kind of feel like we can handle anything now. I hope that we don't have to handle or endure too much more of the lockdown stuff, but at least I feel a little bit more prepared with some different skill sets if we do.
That's very true. Yeah, it's been a very strange start to the year. There's not been that fresh start feeling that you maybe usually get. I mean, I'm not one of these that says new year, new me, but I do like the fresh start feeling, and it never came because 2020 rolled into 2021, and that stroke of midnight on January 1st doesn't change a thing. So it's been a bit of a struggle getting back into the swing of things after trying to take a little bit of time at Christmas to actually enjoy what we could of it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, is that normally you kind of have that break over Christmas and then you start the year off fresh. I'm the same. I'm not like a, make a giant list of resolutions type person anyway. But because we had such a weird year in 2020 and then moved right into another year that kind of started off the same way, you don't feel like you get that kind of divide or that fresh start. So a bit of a weird change, but I do think having a bit of time off over Christmas and then obviously, just a different working situation last year gave a lot of people, if not everybody, a little bit of chance to get a bit of perspective on work and the way that we want to work and where we want our businesses to go. So did you kind of feel like anything really stuck out in your head, or is there anything that you learned in 2020 that you're going to try and keep in mind for 2021?
I think you're absolutely right about work being completely different. And I think having spent so long being self-employed and feeling like you were part of that little maybe minority group of other people that worked by themselves, suddenly other people found out what it was like to work by themselves and work in the house and try to be motivated. And I think that kind of threw me a little bit. I'm going, finding out that other people are doing the same, and if anything, it made things not easier, but it felt like you were more supported. Everybody was in the same sort of boat in terms of that. Um, I mean, it's like the whole alone together thing or whatever. Um, that's kind of what it felt like. You've gone from feeling isolated working to now completely isolated and not even getting to see, like, like yourself, if maybe we'd met up to do some work together or whatever, and now everything's virtual. So um that was that's been hard because even work being self-employed and working from home, people think you're used to it, but it doesn't make it any easier, um with everybody doing the same thing.
The working from home thing is, I think a lot of people that maybe had a more traditional like 9 to 5 kind of setup or whatever would make comments like, oh, it must be nice to work from home, and oh, do you just get to sit around in your pajamas and watch Netflix all day and stuff like that. And I think it made everybody realize that actually it's not that easy working from home, and working from home in a pandemic brings on like a whole nother level of kind of like loneliness or separation. Because you're right, we used to meet up. I mean, a lot of small businesses will meet up for like co-working dates, or they'll meet a friend at a cafe for lunch to chat through some new ideas for their business, or even just having the opportunity to do things like that, or meet clients in person rather than having to get used to doing everything over a screen, even recording this podcast through a screen and things like that. So I think that's a really good point. And, like you said, even though you were used to working from home, like many of us were, myself included, before this, the dynamic was so different when everything else changed around us. And I know for a lot of people, it was one extreme or the other. It was like they either were struggling to get as much work in the door as they wanted, or all of a sudden their business really took off, or their orders really grew because of the nature of their business or something new that they introduced. And then all of a sudden it was that struggle of like being so busy with nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's one of those problems that I shouldn't really complain about, but I've definitely been busier this year than ever, really. But I've been really grateful to be that person that's been able to connect a lot of people who maybe haven't been able to see each other, or be that link between people being able to send out postal gifts or cards. And maybe I've got a couple of customers that are have been self-isolating throughout most of this and can't get to the shops, so I'll make the card, type the card, post the card, that kind of thing. And little things that aren't generally what I do every day, but I've adapted it to try and fit what people are needing now. The kind of I mean, the work-life balance doesn't exist anymore. There's hardly any life to balance that, so I've found myself working a lot more. But I was kind of always like that anyway. When you work from home, it's hard to shut the door and walk away. If you think, oh, I need to get that done, then you do end up working far longer, and there's nobody at the other end of it going, okay, you can sign out now. It doesn't. But again, not complaining, really grateful to have been busy, because I think if I hadn't been busy, I honestly don't know what I'd have done with myself some days. I think I would have gone mad, honest. And it's been great to have it as a distraction, I suppose, just to keep myself going.
The mental health aspects of everything that has gone on around us are huge. And I think it's something that at the beginning people weren't really talking about, and then it quickly became a sort of important topic of discussion for a lot of people. And I know for me personally, it really helped to see other small business owners posting about how difficult it was, and I tried to be honest about my challenging days as well. I think, there you could probably do a full podcast episode just on all of this sort of the different types of effects that this had on people's mental health. Obviously, everybody being in quite a different situation in terms of like living alone or with a partner or with friends, or people with small kids in the house. That was a totally different experience, and then all of the other things that go along with it. You had people that were working like crazy just to keep themselves busy. Alice said there about how she was actually quite thankful to have work to keep her busy, as she thinks she would have really struggled mentally otherwise. And then you have people on the other side of that who just didn't feel that they had it in them to do much at all. And I think there was really no right or wrong answer here. It was very much survival and do whatever it is that you need to get by. So I guess the plus side of all of that is it caused all of us to kind of reflect and think about what we need and how important it is to take care of ourselves and our own mental health first and foremost. And my next guest on the show is Alex. She is a personal trainer, and Alex talks us through some of the changes that she's made in her life, which are actually quite major, and why she hopes that not only herself but that others continue to look at a different lifestyle and a little bit more downtime moving forward. Hey Alex, how has your 2020 been?
Well, it's definitely been really challenging. I think for all the changes that we've had to make through the business, it's okay. I don't actually mind change. I'm quite quick at adapting, and that's just through previous experience with different jobs and traveling. But yeah, I think that there's lots of lessons that we've all learned, and I think one of the biggest things when we were working through lockdown, something big was what are we going to do in our spare time, what's important, and it really was just moving, seeing family, like directly just caring so much about my family. Like all of a sudden this pressure to go and check my mum and dad were okay, check in on my little brothers, and it was quite daft. I got all big sister. I was like, my brother who's in Edinburgh and he's 21, and I was like, oh, we need to get him home. How's he doing? Is he okay? On the phone, he's like, oh, Alex, chill out. So things that have been positive about it is I am a little work demon. So when I left school, and even when I was in school, I definitely struggled to concentrate on my schoolwork, but was really encouraged for drama, art, and my work outside of it. So I just worked as a casual arts assistant actually, and it was so fun, and that's what focused me. And yeah, when I went away traveling, I was working the full 2 years. And even in those 2 years, I think it only took like 3 weeks off as the biggest break. So I didn't actually take a big break off of working, really. Well, 3 weeks together was long, but all of it consistently. As soon as I got home, it was like full-time job. And then when I got my full-time job, I was studying as well, doing my full-time job. And it was just continuous. And for me, work's always been like that, continuous and never switching off. Like it was just at the very end of last year, so about a year ago, that I thought, oh, I'm going to take 2 days off at the weekend. And I think that comes to all of the people who are entrepreneurial or have their own business. But this has really taught me to kind of step back from business a little bit, and that the biggest lesson, I suppose, was that work is not everything, and that's not where all my eggs lie. Like family and friendship is super important, and other things like, okay, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have renovated their homes during this as well, even if it's just putting the the sofas a different way 1,000 times, So I think that was the biggest lesson for me, that work, although I absolutely adore it and I love it, but it's not everything, and to create that boundary where what's important outside of work for me, and yeah, I think that was one of my biggest lessons.
That's such a good one. And I think that's something that a lot of people have stopped to think about is like, what do they want their life to look like? Do they want to be working 24/7? And as you said, like those of us